MC Hospitality. All good? All right. Good morning, guys. My name is Nick Hodak with the MC Hospitality. This is Chef Stacy Rausch.
Hello.
So welcome to the Taste of Altosham. We are going to give you an introduction of Altosham if you're not familiar with it. We have about 6 or 7 pieces of equipment. We will be cooking items from each piece of equipment, showing them to you, and giving a little bit of a information on the different pieces. So some features, benefits, why these will benefit your kitchen, etc. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into it. This will be about an hour and 15 minutes, and hopefully by the time we're done, you have a lot more information on Altosham. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the chat. Somebody's monitoring the chat, and they'll ask the question to me. I'll be able to answer live. All right. So Altosham, if you're not familiar, it was a company that was started out of necessity. Jerry Moz had a franchise in the 60s called Chicken Delight. And Chicken Delight was a company where he would deliver chickens to customers. He is based out of Wisconsin. And so delivering the product to their home, he found some challenges in getting it to remain hot. Nobody wants cold product to be delivered. So he's in Wisconsin. You have these Wisconsin winters. He delivers chickens, finds that he could have it be a little bit warmer. And so he kind of goes on this journey trying to find ways to keep the chicken at temperature when he delivers it. So all different kinds of ways. He had stainless steel boxes. He had live chafing fuel. There were some issues with that. And so he was at a Packers game one day, saw that there was snow all around the field, with the exception of on the field. So all around field is grass, the snow had melted, and he asked somebody, how is this possible? And he found out that they're using low density thermal cabling running underneath the field. And so it's just gently melting the ice. It's not sending a ton of heat. It's just kind of radiating heat. It's keeping the ice from building up. And he has this aha moment. So he gets his hands on some of this cabling in his garage. He's building one of these. He has a stainless steel box that he puts the chicken in, and he has wrapped it with the heater cable. And so what that's doing is the heater cable is heating up very gently, radiating the heat in, so it's maintaining the internal temperature of the product. It's also keeping the moisture that the product brings into the cavity. So we didn't need any water pan or anything like that to add moisture to keep it from drying out. And this worked. And so that was the birth of our holding cabinet, which we're going to roll over to in just a minute. We have several different products that have kind of spawned from this technology. We utilize the halo heat, we call it, which is this cabling wrapped around the boxes in several of our pieces, from merchandisers to waterless hot wells. We have them in our multi-cook ovens, cook and holds, etc. So we're going to jump into it. We can wheel that over here. So just to start, we actually have a combi oven over here, and that's cooking a rotisserie style chicken right now. So we'll get to that. We're cooking it off of a probe. It's at 92 degrees right now. And once it hits temperature that we've set, this will go off. It'll give us a couple different alarms, flash some lights. So I just want you to notice how visible it is. You can be across the kitchen. You can hear this beeping going off. You're going to see the light on the handle flashing. The internal lights are going to be flashing. And we have this on our multi-cook ovens as well, like our Vector and our Converge. But just really easy to tell when a product's ready to go. So into our holding cabinet. So this is what I was talking about. I'm going to give this a little turn here. So very simple technology. Obviously, this has evolved since the 60s. We have a classic controller on here. So all we're going to do is we're going to turn it on. We tell it what temperature we want to hold at, and you just hit the up or down buttons and lock it in. We make this in a smaller size, and then we make all the way up to a full size with double doors that holds several different pan configurations, everything in between. So whatever fits into your space. We also make these in drawers utilizing the same technology. So the drawers can go into maybe a custom chef station where you can just pull open the drawer, you have your product right there, and you push the drawer back closed. So I'm going to have Chef tell me a little bit as far as what we've got in here, what we cooked, what we're holding.
Okay, so I have pre-cooked a smoked pork shoulder butt and shredded it and put it in barbecue sauce, and we're going to serve that on sandwiches later. So that's been in the cook and hold. I roasted potatoes right under our rotisserie chicken so it can get some of that great flavor on it. And of course, it cooks a lot quicker, so we've got it in the cook and hold as well. And then I have pre-cooked in our Vector onion rings, which I'm holding for the barbecue pork sandwiches. So that we will have in just a little
while. So really big benefits of this compared to a more traditional holding cabinet that you're used to. Holding cabinets usually will heat up using a cowl rod, a big heating element. It turns on, and then you're going to have some sort of way that moves that heat around the cavity. So we wrap our whole cavity so it's even heat coming from all sides. If you have that cowl rod style that other units will use, you just have this one heating element somewhere in the cavity, and it's going to blow air around. So whenever you're blowing air around, you have moving air, and it's drying out the product. And it's taking that moisture, and so you have to put in some sort of a pan with water if you're going to try and maintain that. That kind of brings its own issues. So this is just a very simple way to not have to have any fan. There's no pans or anything like that. And this heater cabling lasts so long. We come across units that are 20, 30 years old, and they're still in operation. So it's a very solid, built to last system. We also have, if you notice on the inside, hopefully you can see that, Ben. On the inside of the doors, we actually have some baffles. So you can, depending on the product you put in here, if you're doing fried chicken, for example, you had a nice crispy breading on there. If you trap all the moisture in, it's going to get soggy. So you can actually open up some of these vents. You can do a combination from more open up top, less down below. You're going to get this natural convection of air, and it will keep the product from getting oversaturated with moisture. So you can play around and tweak these. On the inside, we have a pan that slides out, so that can catch it if there's any grease or spills. You have a little valve that you can turn and drain out the liquid. And that's it. So a really simple product, but the technology you're going to see is going to be used through all these different pieces using that halo heat technology. So I'm going to move this back out of the way. Before I jump into the cook and hold, which utilizes everything that a holding cabinet does, but we can actually cook in the cavity, kind of low and slow, I am going to talk about a couple other pieces that we have. So this is just to give you an idea of how our waterless well works. So just this portion here is the well. This is actually an aftermarket cart that we put it in so we can move it around our kitchen. But you can see there's no drain down below because we don't have any water. Instead of having a water bath in here, it has to heat up with some sort of element, and then it's going to create steam to heat the bottom of the pans. We use that halo heat. So it's on the bottom of this well. It's going to be a very even cook, just like we have even heating inside of our holding cavity. And you don't have to worry about putting water into this well. Maybe somebody didn't put any water into the well and you have issues with dry firing the pan. We can also do these 1 to 5 wells. So any combination, you could take these, we'll give you the cutout, you just drop these right into your serving line. And you have a thermostat right here. We can have a thermostat that controls all the wells, or we can have individual thermostats per well. It's up to you. We also have this for soup wells. So very even heating of a soup well. You're not going to get like a skin on top of the product like you may have seen using other soup wells. So that's just taking that same technology and just working it through the line. And you'll see this. It's very consistent. That technology shows up in our merchandisers. We have heated merchandisers. So after you cook all of this product, you have somewhere to put it so it doesn't cool off. So we have heated merchandisers like you would see in retail, like at grocery stores, utilizing that same halo heat in a well, but you have a sneeze guard. We have it on an open air merchandiser to where you can set each shelf to a different temperature. Maybe you're doing rotisserie chickens. You have a rotisserie chicken program. You put them in the clamshell retail packaging, and then you can set that shelf. Maybe the next shelf you're doing sides, and they don't need to be the same temperature as a chicken. You can always dial that back. So we offer several different merchandising solutions. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the cook and hold. And Chef,
yes, sir.
This would be a good time to also throw the rice into the converge.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
All righty. So Chef's going to throw some rice into our multi-cook oven. While she's doing that, I'm going to show you the cook and hold. Roll that out so you can see it a little better. So the cook and hold takes our holding cabinet technology. It's still wrapped with our halo heat. And so what we did is we bumped up the temperature, and now we can actually cook. If you've heard the term low and slow, people want to do like an overnight cook on a roast, a big piece of meat. Usually what happens is when you're doing overnight cooks, it's going to just sit there and dry out the product, and it just continues to shrink. With our halo heat technology, it's not going to shrink because we don't have any of that issue with the forced air. And so we have very minimal shrink, much bigger yield, and we get a very consistent cook all the way through the product. So I think, what do we have in here, Chef?
I'm going to tell you.
Alrighty.
We have, and if you would just check that for me.
Yep.
I'd appreciate
No
that.
problem.
So in the cook and hold last night, I sous vide a piece of corned beef with all of the spices, and I put it in here, and it has been holding for 18 hours. So I can just come back the next day. I can fill it up with whatever I need, no matter what size it is, and I come back and everything's ready to go. I'm going to take it out of here, and I'm going to put it into our chill blast because I want to cool it down so that I can make sandwiches. So I braised it. And this is what it looks like. And I'm going to put it into the blast chiller, and we're going to chill it, and then we'll slice it up, and I'll slice it, show you how to do that later, and we'll make sandwiches. So thank you.
Perfect. All right. So you'll notice that this is a much different controller to this. This is our deluxe controller. So what's nice about our deluxe controller, we're in the process. We've pretty much finalized with the combi being the last piece, with the exception maybe a rotisserie. But you can see this similarities to this. And so what we're doing is we're trying to make it, if you put a couple of these pieces into your kitchen, make it as easy as possible to go from piece to piece. Your operators will be very familiar with one control to the next. And so it's very intuitive, user-friendly. But what's neat about this is we can actually connect this up to the Wi-Fi network here, just like you'd connect your phone up to Wi-Fi in a hotel room, for example. So you just find the network ID, you put in the password, and then this unit will be online. Now what that means is we can see all different things depending on the piece. It will tell us if it's been cleaned, if the cleaning's been bypassed. It will show any error codes. It will show recipes. We can have a cookbook that we actually pull from the AltoSham Global Library. We can add different recipes. Like we have about 120 different recipes that we have shared between our Northern and Southern California locations. And so our chef up in Northern California could have made a really awesome recipe for tri-tip to do an overnight cook. And I can just jump on there and I can grab that recipe and push it right onto this unit. So you don't have to stand in front of the unit and take it and try to press the buttons. Not that it's too hard on this, but I can just use a recipe that's already there. This works great in multi-unit operations. If you're a chain, for example, you can have 1,000 units hooked up across the country, and you can come out with a limited time offer. You can come out with a new item. And instead of sending out a USB stick or a printed sheet with recipe guidelines, you can actually just do from one computer, select all, and shoot out the recipe to every unit. They're all connected up to Wi-Fi, so it'll push the recipe along with any updates that come up. So if there's some updates where the software updates, just automatically happens instead of you having to go onto a website, downloading it to a USB and going through the steps. And we can also share. It's something that you have to completely share to our tech service department. It's not like they can take a look in there without you knowing, but you can let them have access, and then they can see what's going on in the machine as well. So that's nice to have our tech service department being able to see live what's happening with your equipment. We do have a simple controller that doesn't utilize this Wi-Fi tech that we'll show you later on the Vector. It's a small upcharge for it, but there's no monthly fee. It's not like you're paying a subscription service to have the access to ChefLink. And once you have it, you'll get your own user ID, your own link. You can look at it from a phone. You can look at it from a tablet, computer, all different kinds, very easy. And you can see all your pieces and all your locations. So that's my quick talk on ChefLink. On here, with the cook and hold, so I mentioned we're using a higher temperature. So Chef, you put this in, this was an 18-hour cook, right?
That is correct.
So Chef put in the corned beef. We probed the piece of meat, threw it in, and we already had a corned beef recipe from the global recipe book from Alto Sham. So somebody's already done the work for us. We just take it, we cook off of a probe. So we plug the probe in, put it right into the piece of meat. It says, I'm going to preheat up to this temperature. I'm going to cook to this internal temp, and then I'm going to hold at whatever the temp it was in there, 140 degrees or so. And it will just hold off of that probe temp. Usually you can go a long time. I think our chefs at corporate have done 72 hours holds. Eventually the product will start to fall off and degrade in quality. But it's amazing how long you can hold this food. So an overnight cook is no problem. You can throw the product in there. You can have it ready to go in the morning when you come in. Instead of having the extra labor cost of somebody watching it, you can use this for all kinds of different cooking methods. Instead of cooking a different item with a stock pot, having somebody constantly stirring, you can throw this in there. You can make all different kinds of bases. And you can just have this cook on its own. It's so gentle, you're not going to have a flame underneath the stock pot, for example, burning your product to the bottom of the pan. So labor is very expensive. It's hard to find right now. This is huge, and we make them in several different sizes. This is a little half-size unit. We make them full size, accepting 6 pans per cavity. So you can take this, and maybe if you're doing combi oven cooking and you're cooking a ton of cook and holds for banquets or things like this, maybe this is the way to go. It's going to be a much lower price point. They're easier to move around. You can wheel this anywhere under the hood, and it's going to do a lot of different things for you, not just for cooking meats. So something to keep in mind. And it works as a holding cabinet when you're done. So we have all the good technology from this cavity in here so we can cook and go to a hold. Kind of saves an extra step.
One of the things I really love about this whole technology is the simplicity to it and the intuitiveness of it. I love that, you know, we've all gone into restaurants and the food tastes different. That's something that you order all the time tastes different the next week, and then it tastes different the week after. Well, cooking like this assures that your food is consistent every time. So as long as you're putting the same thing in and hitting the same button that you hit before for that particular item, it will come out the same. And that I think is priceless, because we all know how the market is for employees these days, and so it's just brilliant, and I love it.
And if you go to a restaurant, you have a bad meal. I mean, what are the odds that you're going to come back? Right. Like, I'll just go find a new restaurant.
Even one time.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Nick was talking about earlier, is that everything can be set up for you. And even if someone is not a chef, they can cook food as if a chef had cooked it.
To their specifications.
To their specifications, exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm just going to show you something here real quick. I'm not sure if you can see that in the frame, Ben, but just on the controller. So this is just to jump into the menu here. So these are different settings that we've made. You can have categories. So if you wanted to have a beef, if you wanted to have a pork, or if you want to just call it proteins, you can have those categories that you add your items to. And then you can also give it pictures. So you can load pictures onto it from ChefLink or through the USB. And just so you can see how it looks, this is an hour-and-a-half cooking time for some caramelized onions, just as an example. But preheating on the first step. Step 2, we're going to do air at 250 degrees for an hour-and-a-half. And then you can have it go to a hold. And this is all, you wouldn't probe onions, for example, but if you're doing carnitas or some sort of meat, you can just take that, and this is going to cook. Do we have one of our probes handy over here? I know there's some on the shelf over there.
One moment, please.
We're using a probe right now in our combi, but what's nice is the probes are universal. So you can have that jump from machine to machine. If somebody accidentally breaks a probe and it's hardwired in, then you have to call service and you lose all of your intuitive cooking that we were talking about. With this, you have the probe, you can have an extra one wrapped up in chef's desk, and then you just take this, pop it right in the machine, or maybe you're not using your cook and hold for the day and the combi needs to have a probe. You can take this, plugs right into the combi, multi-cook ovens, blast chillers, so it's very nice. It's not a specific piece for each cavity. Nice little backup to have. So that pretty much concludes our cook and hold. We're going to jump over to the combi. So we're still cooking our rotisserie chicken. You can see it in there. This started at probably 1150. It's up to 136 degrees right now. So we can see what's going on in our cavity. We can see our, this is kind of like our progress bar, the gray area. Once it reaches the right side, it'll hit our temperature that we have set. Something that's really neat, well, we have multiple things that are neat about our combis. But one that's huge is we have cool touch technology. So over here, we can actually go zero clearance up against another piece of cooking equipment. Why that's big, this is probably the most expensive piece of real estate in your kitchen, is what goes underneath the hood. The hood itself isn't that expensive, but the HVAC for the life of the restaurant, along with everything else that goes into running a hood, is going to be the expensive part. And if we can save ourselves 12 inches and throw on a couple extra set of burners on our range, or maybe we can drop a fryer on the line, then that just gives you more flexibility for what you can put out of your kitchen. So because we have this, the way that we move our air through our panel, we can actually have hot pieces of equipment go right up against it. Obviously, all the service is done from here, so whatever goes next to it, or the combi itself, has to be on casters. So if we ever need to service it, we can roll that out or roll out the piece next to it and have access to the panel. But we don't need to give 6 or 12 or 18 inches just because. Competition may have that because they don't have ways to move air through the panel. You're going to get this to overheat, and all the electrical components are in there. And if that goes down, you're dead in the water. So one of the benefits of the Alpha Sham combi oven. I talked about the probe, having it be universal. So another huge benefit. Some manufacturers are hardwired. So it's going to look like this, just coming out of the side of the wall. Now, that's going to be a service tech call. Chef can't fix it. Rep can't fix it. You're going to need to have somebody from the authorized service agent come out, undo what's inside, and wire up a new probe, where ours has this just plug and play. Where you can throw in...
I would like to throw them in, yes,
yeah.
please.
Roasting?
No, roasting Brussels sprouts.
Okay. The chef's just going to throw in these Brussels sprouts. What's neat about this is we have all these different pan slides, and we can cook in the cavity as long as we're looking to do a similar item. Now, obviously, we can't steam in there while we're roasting a chicken, but we can definitely throw in like items. I'm gonna hand that to you, Chef.
Of course.
Also, our combi oven is going to use, it's self-cleaning. So what's nice is we have these tablets. We can do a rinse, which maybe we're jumping from a steam setting over to cooking the chicken, and we just steamed some shrimp. We didn't want any flavor to transfer over. You could just do a rinse, 10 minutes, not going to use any chemicals. And then we have different levels. We have kind of a light, a medium, heavy duty. Light might just be if you're normal, everyday, you're cooking. Heavy might be maybe you're doing a bunch of rotisserie chickens. Obviously, chicken puts off a bunch of grease. So it'll tell you how many of these tablets to put in, and you hit the button and you go. There's no scrubbing. It does it all. It heats up. It utilizes the steam to break the grease free. And then it's going to run water through here. You'll see the chemical will activate. It looks like a car wash is going on inside of there. So you'll get all the soap bubbles are going. It'll rinse them all out, and then it will also turn up the fans. It dries out the unit. So when you come in the morning, it's completely clean. You don't have to spend that extra labor that you would to have somebody cleaning the combi.
It looks brand new. There's nothing a chef loves better than self-cleaning equipment.
Yes. And again, labor savings.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to clean the oven. So if you can just hit a button and have it go, it's amazing. We have a smoker option. So you're going to want to order this when you order the combi, because what we have is we have a little heating element in the back of the combi. It slides right into this space, and then you're going to soak wood chips. All different kinds of wood chips are available, and you don't have to use ours, but you just want to have some chips that
Hickory.
Apple, maple. You throw those in here. This is going to heat up from that element down below. And we're not burning the chips, we're just vaporizing off the flavor into the cavity. So you will still get a good amount of smoke, but it's going to, now they say once a smoker, always a smoker. With our unit, you can do that heavy clean, you will get out almost all of the smoke smell. I've done it before where I've smoked, I do a heavy clean. If you really search for it, you could probably get a tiny hint of smoke, but otherwise, it's going to be a lot better than if you were to run it in like our smoke and hold, which doesn't have this automatic cleaning system to where you'd have to clean it out manually. If you're doing a lot of smoking, I would recommend doing a smoke and hold, and we'll show that one after the combi oven here. We can also do liquid cleaning chemicals. If you don't want to go the tablet route, it would have a shelf that hangs off the side of the oven, and then it would have a hose that just goes into a cleaning jug. And it's not our specific chemicals. You can use chemicals from maybe a food broadliner, like a Cisco or a US Foods, an Ecolab. So you can always run that way if you wanted to. Then you don't have to worry about holding on to chemical tablets on storage somewhere. You just have a jug, and it will just automatically pull the pre-measured amount depending on the level cleaning you choose. All right, so gonna keep going on the combi. Combi's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of the kitchen. We have all these different pieces, like a holding cabinet, a cook and hold, smoke and hold. You can do all of this inside of a combi. If you're not familiar with a combi oven, this is a technology that originated out of Europe in probably the late 70s. It's combining steam, convection, into one cavity. So if you wanted to use it as a full steamer, you could just turn this thing to 212. You can have this go full steam. It's plumbed, it's got water, it's got a drain. If you wanted it to be just for baking, you could have it bake 375 degrees, no moisture. You could use it for a holding cabinet. You could set it to 135 degrees. You could do a proofer. You could have it do multiple stages. So you could have it proof some rolls where it's bringing the temperature to maybe 100 degrees, activating the yeast. Maybe the humidity in there is like 90%. And then everything starts to rise. And then after a set amount of time, you can have it go into a bake. So you can put in your dough and have it proof and bake in one cavity instead of having a separate proofer somewhere. We could smoke, we can roast, we can sous vide. So sous vide is going to be low temperature steaming, usually maybe 125 degrees, 130 degrees for a longer period of time. But with a sous vide circulator, the health departments don't really go crazy over them because you're cooking something without monitoring the temperature, and it's usually at a lower temperature, sometimes in the danger zone. There is such thing as time over temperature. So if you cook longer, you can cook products that maybe chicken needs to cook to 165. You can bring that to 145, 150. You just happen to keep it up at that temperature for longer to kill all the bacteria. There's no way to measure that in a circulator that has no probe. But with this, we have our probe. And then we can poke one of the bags. There's a foam tape. It's usually about an eighth to a 3/16 of an inch foam tape that keeps the bag from collapsing, letting out liquids, things like that. But then you have a control. So you can tell this is exactly what happened. It cooked up to this temperature. The cavity was at this temperature. We use this much moisture, and you have a record of that. You can always export that information through HACCP, through the USB, or you can do it through the chef link. So all different kinds of really cool things we can do in a combi. This particular combi does full-size sheet pans. This is our 720G. We also can do half-size sheet pans or hotel pans. And anytime you're doing sheet pans, you can double up. If you're doing 12 by 20 hotel pans, you can do 2 of them in the space of 1 sheet pan. So that is going to be all different sizes, from little countertop units all the way up to full-size roll-ins that you can do a lot of one item. Maybe you're doing banquet cooking for 500 at a hotel. You can have these staged, ready to go in the walk-in, and just roll everything in and hit the button and have it cook. We also do a really good job at having a way to take it from a refrigerated state. So you can have a chiller that will accept a rack. You can have a holding cabinet that will accept a rack. You can have a combi oven that'll accept a rack. So anybody doing banqueting, like those hotels I was talking about, you can take it from the walk-in, you can roll it into the combi, cook up to temperature. Now you can take it and put it into a holding cabinet, because we want to do all kinds of other things in our combi oven. We don't want to just tie it up as a holding cabinet. And then you can roll from the holding cabinet to serve, and then you can take it and you can chill it down. You can just keep going on the same rack, from a refrigerated state to cooked to hold to chill, back down. So really neat. Alto-Shaam is the only company that has that system where it can stay on the same rack and go through the whole process. On this one, I talked about doing our probe cooking, and we can have our cookbook here. I'm not sure if you can see that from your view, Ben, but again, very similar to what we were doing on our cook and hold. You can put a picture with it. You can have multiple steps. You can categorize it. We have our little search feature here. So if we wanted to search, you could just take it, punch in your name that you wanted. So it sounds like our chicken is hit temperature. So I searched for bean, and there's beans right there. So you can just hit that, go right into the recipe.
I'll be right there.
Pull this guy out. So it's popping up. It's saying there's a cleaning needed. Would you like to clean? I can hit that button as soon as Chef grabs this out. We can take a look at the cleaning real quick.
Well, look how beautiful that is.
So we simulated a rotisserie. We do make rotisserie ovens, but where a rotisserie can only do a couple things, like maybe ribs and chicken, I just went over everything that our combi oven can do. And so there's just a lot more flexibility. But if you're doing maybe just a rotisserie chicken program, we definitely have rotisseries as well. So if I wanted to look at the cleanings, I just hit yes. We have rinse, 10-minute rinse. We've got a medium clean, a heavy clean, and a heavy plus clean. That would be for if you were doing like chicken all day, like say a retail grocery market. They just load these up. They take that chicken rack, which we did 1 chicken. They'll do 6 chickens on the rack, and they'll do double deep double stacked high in this cavity. So you're getting 24 chickens at a time in about a 1 hour span. They'll usually have 2 of them double stacked. We also have if you're doing something like that, we do have a grease collection system. So if you're doing real heavy grease, you don't want that grease running down the drain and into your grease trap, because then you'd be cleaning it all the time. You'd have to hydrojet out your drain lines constantly. So what this does is you'd open up a quick disconnect. It would just run all your grease right into a jug. And then you can take the jug, disconnect it, and take it to your grease reclamation area. And then you can just continue cooking if you're doing sides or other items out of there. But something that's a very nice option to have if you're doing just a chicken program. Alrighty, so I'm just going to show on some recipes here. Chef, are we all done with our combi
Yes,
cooking
sir.
for now? All right. So just so you can see, this is kind of the manual mode. So if you want to do manual, I could say, all right, I want to do a combination of steam and air. What that's going to do is we take the power of moisture that drives heat into a product. If you think about grabbing a pan with a wet towel, it's going to transfer that heat, maybe even more so than if you just grab the pan, because the steam heats up and steam burn is bad. So it'll really drive that heat through the moisture. So we can now utilize that moisture, driving the heat into the product without drying it out. And you can take that and you can do it at much higher temperatures than a standard steamer would top out. Standard steamer tops out at 212. We can steam all the way down to 89 degrees. So we can low temperature steam in here. You can poach. We can come up to that 125, 130. We can do sous vide. We can do it at maybe 170. So you get like a real nice blanch of your vegetables. 212, and then we can go up to 250, and that's kind of like a super steam. So if you're doing like frozen products or something that had maybe a harder shell like seafood, you could really drive that steam in. Above that, the steam actually will crisp up product. It's very interesting. You could throw toast in here, and you can turn it to 100% steam at 350 degrees, and it would sound like it came out of a toaster oven. So we can just go in here. This is a real simple, if I wanted to cook off the probe or if I wanted to do a timer, you could just choose. You could say I want to cook whatever product I'm doing up to 145, and I want to cook it at 425 with 60% fan and 40% moisture, and go. And this will do exactly what I just told it to do. You can also do all kinds of things in here. You can also do different tiers if you wanted to do maybe steaming and you wanted to throw in one for 8 minutes, one for 5 minutes, one for 4 minutes. You could do all kinds of potatoes and broccoli and carrots, and the timers will go off and let you know which shelf. So, you know, okay, my top shelf, the timer's going off, pull that product. So that's another thing that we can do. And then we do have our fully programmed recipe library, and we can always come up with new recipes. We can push recipes from our catalog online. And just to take a look, if we wanted to look at beef fillet, for example, so you can give it a name. You can say a description. So 6 to 8 ounce beef fillet to medium rare, 20 per full-size sheet pan with an elevated baking rack. So now I can take and replicate exactly what Chef has done without having Chef here. Maybe Chef can take the day off. I know everybody laughs. Chef doesn't get to take the day off, but maybe Chef's in another part of the property. Anybody can work it. So we have a preheat. Stage 2, we have convection to 115 degrees, 100% fan, 450 on the temperature. And then if you wanted to, you could add a hold in here. So if you wanted it to then hold after it just did that cooking process, this can hold. Maybe you cook it up at 10 o'clock so it's ready by lunch. Or you throw it in the afternoon so it's ready by dinner. We can put a picture on there, and then we can categorize it. So if we wanted to put this into maybe a favorites category, or if we had like a special menu, like a prefix menu, we could have that category right in there. So it's just very easy to utilize this system. I think that is it for the combi oven for now. I might remember something in a little bit, but that's it for now. I will say that ventless, you have a vent system with our VentTech hoods. So if you have only works with electric because you can't make gas ventless, you have to be able to get rid of that gas byproduct. That's why we have the hood. But if it's electric, you can put a vent system on it. It has filters, just like our hood has grease filters, and it has a HEPA filter that will get rid of smoke and odor, which are replaceable. So you can take that, you can put it on top of this unit. You can have a double stack one of these units, and it can be ventless and electric. It is rated for cooking proteins as well. A lot of the competition out there, it's only rated for condensation. So you're very limited on your menu. So we have some other pieces over here that are ventless, and we're gonna work over to our multi-cook ovens right now. If you wanna take a look at that chicken now that it's out, really nice coloring on there. You can get a nice crisp. If you want it to be more crisp, you can bring up the fan speed. We can also control the damper, so how much moisture is kept in the cavity. If you want to open up the damper, let out more moisture, then that will give it even more crisp texture. And you can go the other way too. If it's too crispy, you can maintain that moisture, lower the fan speed down. So that's just one of the really neat pieces coming out of the combi oven. All right, I'm gonna grab some water real quick. Make sure my voice doesn't go out. Then we're gonna jump over to our smoke and hold. So
I took this pork roast to 165 and it's been holding at 165 for approximately 14 hours. So I showed you so what I'll do is let that sit for a little while and then I'll shred it and mix it with barbecue sauce, or you can add different ingredients to it depending on which style you want it to be. And then, as I showed you before, that I took out of the cooking hold, not the cooking hold, I'm sorry, the holding cabinet. I had previously done one, and this is what it looks like.
Make some nice pulled pork
It's
sliders
beautiful.
out of that.
I mean, and look how moist that is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring that over here when that cools.
So she's gonna make some some sandwiches over there. Just kind of to touch on this, we can cook and hold, just like we did over there. This is our simple controller. So instead of having recipe-driven system with the Wi-Fi Chef Link capability, what you can do is you can just tell it, I want to cook at this temperature for X amount of time, or use the probe. I want to after it hits that, and if we're smoking, you would hit smoke and say, I want to smoke for an hour, hour and a half. You can cold smoke in here. So if you wanted to do salmon for lox, you can do that. The smoking is just going to activate that heating element. And what you can do to kind of counter any heat that comes off of the smoke is you can throw a pan of ice into the cavity. So you'll be cold smoking. You can cold smoke almonds or cheese or all different kinds of things where you don't want heat to come in. Like obviously we wouldn't want to smoke cheese warm because it would just melt. But you can do it cold, get excellent results, and you can also have it go to hold. So versatile piece. Again, just taking our basic holding cabinet and tweaking a little bit more. So our basic holding cabinet will go to 200, or a holding cook and hold will go to 325. So we have that extra heat, which will give you the ability to cook the product from a raw state. All right. So now Chef is just kind of making up some of those sandwiches. Ben, should we roll over to, maybe we'll take a look at the Converge?
And I think we were just saying that the Dodgers just made the playoffs. So we are going to use our baseball
Nice.
picks. So this is just a nice, easy, premeditated meal that I can put in the night before. I can fill that thing up, come in the next day and feed anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred.
I'm gonna grab these out. Looks like our carrots have roasted.
Okay. So
Show these real quick so you can see them.
oh wow, these are beautiful.
So nice roast on the carrots.
And I will put this over here on our serving table.
Chef, do you want me to put these in the holding cabinet right now?
I think
Because we got a little bit more time.
we got
on
a
our
little
lamb.
bit more time. We're not gonna fit in there right now because I've cooked so much stuff because it's fun.
They can hang out on the counter here.
So I think I'll just leave it on the counter for now.
So what we just cooked those in, and we also cooked some rice a little bit earlier, is our Converge. So this is a multi-chamber oven. And what's neat about this is we originally came out with this multi-chamber technology on the Vector, which I'm going to talk about shortly. The Vector is multi-chamber. We can do 2 decks, 3 decks, 4 decks. We also have a little bit wider unit, so we can get up to 16-inch pizzas in there if you're doing a pizza program. I had a customer that purchased one of these because his pizza program consisted of a single small countertop oven, and it took about 20 minutes to cook. We did it in here in about 9 minutes, and he said that he would get this line that goes out the door, and if you're doing 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, by the time you're the 8th person in line, you're like 3 or 4 hours away from getting a pizza. So you kind of give up and leave. He could do 4 of them all at once, different toppings. He could have different settings saved in there, and he could do all 4 in 9 minutes. So it's amazing. Then he could throw sandwiches in there. You could do all different items in that Vector, and it's all menu driven. This particular one is our simple controller. So with the simple controls, again, no chef link, but we can have this deluxe controller on that Vector. Now what this is our Converge. The Converge is everything that the Vector has, but it has fully welded dividers in between each deck, and we have gaskets. So what we can do now is we can replicate our combi oven technology by adding moisture to our Vector to make it a Converge. So we can do a full steam in here. We could turn it to 212, 100% steam. You could do 100% air if you wanted to as well. And this one can be steaming broccoli. Then on the next level down, you could be combi cooking some salmon. So we're cooking that product, we're driving the heat into the salmon using the moisture, and then we're controlling our air and our humidity. And then down here, we could have it completely dry if we wanted to. We could be baking cookies. And these can all be set at different temperatures. So if you wanted a lower temp down here for maybe some pastries, bakery items, you could set this to 325, and it will flex 50 degrees up or 50 degrees down from your set point. So this would go from 325 up to 375. You could also go down if you wanted to go below 325. And then maybe we wanted to set this deck to a different temperature. Maybe we wanted to go 400. So we could drop down into baking if we needed a little extra room for baking, but we could also go up and do roasting or combi. And then up top, maybe we set this one at 525 and we're just doing a really nice roast on something without moisture. We wanted to take out moisture for whatever reason. So this particular unit right now, it has a catalyst in here. So like a catalytic converter in a car that burns off any unused gas that your engine puts off, this is going to burn off any grease. And so it gets rid of the smoke, it gets rid of the odors. The one thing that this doesn't have right now is we do have moisture. And so you would just need to put a simple condensation hood over the top of this, but you would have to do that on several other pieces, like even a steamer. we are working on a ventless hood for the Converge right now. Converge just came out earlier this year. Vector has been out a couple years now. The Vector, since we don't have the moisture, however, is fully ventless. It's certified EPA 202. We can cook raw proteins in here. We can bake. We can do all kinds of items in here. We just don't have the moisture option. So there's no steaming inside of the Vector. But you could do pizzas, you could do sandwiches, you could do raw proteins, you could bake cookies. And each cavity has its own heater, and it also has its own fan. So it's going to be sending the heat from the top and bottom. And I have a jet plate here that I'll show you what that looks like. So we're using something called structured air technology. So we're going to have a series of slots and dots. And what these do is it sends out heat to the product. But instead of just having dots, which might give a polka dot look, if we really turn up the air movement and you just have these little focused dots that are hitting the product, giving it kind of a polka dotted look, we have these series of slots as well. And the slots are going to give a really nice air curtain distribution of that heat, so it's very even. Now what it's doing is it's sending this from the, just picture each cavity has one on the bottom and one on the top. And so it's sending that heat from the top and bottom. If we raise up the airspeed, we're going to get more crispiness, more browning. We can lower it down, go a little bit slower and gentler. Each cavity has a set of top and bottom plates. And so we can have this cavity set for really low airspeed, this one set for really high airspeed. And they're constantly sending the heat to the product and returning it back to the back of the cavity to run back through that heater. So what's nice is we don't have any cross-contamination or flavor transfer from cavity to cavity. On the Converge, this is welded because if we're doing any kind of water, we don't want steam to leak down into maybe a dry cavity. But we don't have a gasket or anything like that on our Vector. It's just because it's sending the heat and then drawing to the back that you're not going to have that flavor transfer. And each cavity is independent of each other. So worst case scenario, if one, say a heater element goes out, you still have the other cavities to cook on. You're not completely out of service. This particular one I mentioned, it does have our simple controller. So we have this deck down below set at 325, upper decks at 425. You can have them all at the same temperature if you wanted to, like that customer that was doing pizzas. All of them are at the same temperature, but maybe he wanted one to go a little longer because it was a fully loaded pizza with all kinds of toppings. And one was a little bit shorter in time because it was a little bit more limited on toppings, like a cheese and a veggie. So you can have them all at the same, or you can have them at all different temperatures. We can do a manual mode, just like we can do in our combi oven. So you can tell it, I want to cook 3 minutes. And then I'm going to set my airspeed 60%. And we're at 425. You can always change that. This cavity's at 425, but maybe you want it to cook at 475 for this particular item. It'll warm up to 475 when you hit it, and our recipe book will only show recipes that will cook in that range for that deck. So if I went into this one that's at 325, and if I wanted to try and hit a recipe that's set for 500, it would be red, or kind of like a grayed out to where you couldn't use it. So it'll tell you which decks can cook which items, which is really neat. If we went into a program mode, we could have a program, we can give it folders, just like we've done in the other pieces. So like we have a Taste of Alto-Shaam folder for cooking items today, make it easier to find. And you can just scroll through, and these are all presets that we've done before.
The lamb is ready.
Alrighty. So it's beeping, and you can see on the door right there, it's got the LEDs flashing just for that upper deck.
Beautiful rack lamb.
How long was the lamb in there for, Chef? Is it
About 35 minutes.
Okay. So you can tell it if you wanted more color to it. You can raise up your airspeed. You can change your temperatures. You can do all kinds of cool things. So we're cooking just like a combi, but we're in a much smaller footprint, and we have all this flexibility. One thing that we came up with that, again, nobody has this multi-cook technology, but we made one, instead of doing half-size sheet pans or hotel pans, we made one that takes full-size sheet pans. It fits underneath our combi. So now we have all of that high volume power of the combi, but we also have the flexibility of our multi-cook ovens that can be right underneath it, so they can stack on top of each other. So really neat technology there, and it really sets us apart from everybody else out there. So I'm just going to show you real quick the controller on this. It's going to be very similar to what you saw on the combi, but instead of the combi where it just had one white box that we could choose the recipe, on this it gives us 3 different levels. So we can see our 1, 2, and 3. The converge is available in a 2 deck or a 3 deck. The vector is 2, 3, or 4 decks. So you could, we don't have it here, but if we had a 4 deck, you would actually have 4 different ready symbols, and you can have 4 different temperatures on there, and you can just jump from one to the next. So on here, I have 3 different decks. They're all ready and up to temperature. And if I hit this little cookbook here, we can see chamber 1 category selection. If I hit the breakfast, got a lot of eggs in here for some reason. But you can give it a different picture. You can give it a different name. I'm just going to choose this scrambled egg setting. And then you could go in here and you could choose a different setting on here. So right now I clicked on starches. We normally have rice in there, but since that chamber is not at the temperature for the starch, it's not showing up. But if I go into meat and poultry, I can do grilled chicken breast. It's going to tell me to plug in your probe. So we have a spot to put the probe in on each deck. Right there. We could just take one of our probes, plug it into the second deck, slide our chicken in, and then this would say, okay, you're good to go, and it would let us go forward. I'm just going to hit the quesadillas button for now. And then maybe this one, I wanted to, let's see, do some veggies, maybe some roasted mushrooms. So now I have all those going. And I think we had somebody who was interested in the vector on the presentation today. You can still get this controller on the vector oven. So this is our deluxe controller. You would just order that when you order the oven, and you would still be able to go on to ChefLink. You'd be able to push the recipes from the cookbook. It would look just like this. The only thing is we wouldn't have moisture. So we can go in and we can tell it to do all of these things, just no moisture. You can give it a different picture, a name, the description, just like the combi oven can, and then you can categorize it. So it makes it really easy to find maybe a breakfast program, lunch program. On the Converge, we utilize the same tablets that we had for the combi to clean. We just throw in however many it says. We start the cleaning process. On the Vector, because we don't have water running through the machine, we don't have an auto clean, but we would use our Alto-Sham cleaning chemical that's made to work specifically with that catalyst, so we don't damage it. The catalyst is made up of precious alloys and metals, so we want to make sure that we're not just using 409 or something off the shelf from the grocery store that could damage that. But these shelves will actually pull out, so you can take those, clean them off in the sink. You could use like an easy off oven cleaner or something outside of the unit. And then inside the unit, all you're left with is you just have the bottom, the side, and the back. You just spray that onto a towel, wipe the inside, and then after a minute or so, you just take a damp towel and just wipe it out. So really easy for cleaning. These doors will pop open, so if you need to, you can clean in between. We have the dual pane there, so it keeps this cool to the touch. This one's really warm, but I'm holding my hand to the outside here. And then they just close up. Hot glove for that. They just close up. You slide the tab over, and you're good to go. So inside was really warm. This one, put my hand right on the outside, no problem. Very easy, cool to the touch. We can also stack these. So if you had, maybe you started out with 2 or a 3 deck vector, and then you say, you know what, this is great, but now I've started a new program. I have a sandwich program. You could actually just get a stacking kit, stack a unit on top. So maybe add a 2 deck on top of your existing 3 deck. And you have 5 decks. You have all kinds of flexibility. And I just had somebody come in here last week. She was not able to put in a hood, but she wanted to do all different kinds of items, from proteins to tofu and vegetables and all kinds of things like that. We went through and we pretty much everything she threw at us, we ran it through just the vector, and she was blown away. The speed of it is on average about half the cooking time of a convection oven. So you're moving quicker, you're ventless, so you don't have to worry about smoke and grease filling up your kitchen. These guys are electric. We can do a half-size sheet pan, or we can do a 12 by 20 pan, like one of these for a buffet. Make sure to specify when you order, because we have different models. So if you wanted to do just the sheet pan, a sheet pan half size is going to be about 2 inches shorter than that pan that I just showed you. So it'll shorten up the machine by 2 inches in the depth. And then you would need to order that pan that will accommodate a hotel pan, or order the unit that will accommodate a hotel pan if you wanted to do more cooking in hotel pans. So that is, that's talking about that. Chef has a really nice plate made up here that we can take a look. So this was all cooked in the Converge. So multi-cook, looks beautiful. You have a really nice lamb there. We've got, actually, I'll let Chef tell it. I'm not a chef.
It's sort of a twist on a Mediterranean. So we have beautiful lamb that's medium rare, which a lot of people like. This is a lemon Greek rice. And these are, thank you very much.
No problem.
These are roasted carrots with a little bit of honey and cinnamon and lemon juice. So, and below that, we have Greek yogurt with herbs, with dill and parsley.
Chef, do you want me to throw in the salmon right now into the vector?
Yes, please. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. And so we're just throwing in some salmon right now. We're gonna try it about 6 minutes. There we go. So right now we have salmon cooking up top at 425, and we've got cookies cooking down below at 325. Or sorry, salmon's at 375. You can also do multiple stages on this. You can see right now it's showing stage 1. That's all we're using for this recipe. But if you wanted to do maybe a pizza or something with delicate toppings, you might not want to throw it in and just have the air hit it full blast. Before it's set, it could start to blow toppings around the cavity or more delicate items. So what you could do is you could always have one setting that goes for maybe a minute, and then you could have it roll to the second stage, or then it brings up the air. When you ramp up the air after it's already set, say your toppings into cheese, they're not going to fly everywhere around the cavity. So we can do that up to 3 stages. And then right now you can see our salmon. We have this little red bar that's going across, and we have our cookies. It's got a little progress bar as well. So those are cooking at 2 different temperatures. We cooked these off the other day just to see for ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to believe. We cook salmon and cookies at the same time, no flavor transfer. You're not getting salmon flavored cookies. So very nice. You can feel confident that you're not going to be putting out products that have all the flavor transfer. It's going to be its own cavity, and it will cook at the temperature that you set it at. All righty.
This is all in the combi.
So this is all combi. That's beautiful. Go ahead, Chef. I'll let you.
So this is the rotisserie chicken that we roasted in the combi. The potatoes were roasted directly under the chicken, and then we held them in our holding cabinet. And I also put the Brussels sprouts under the chicken, so they all have that flavor of chicken and that wonderful grease and olive oil and all sorts of great flavors. So anyway, so there you have it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And in the combi, we were talking about cooking multiple items at the same time. Obviously, the potatoes, the Brussels sprouts, they benefit from cooking with the chicken. So you get all that good flavors the chef was talking about. But if you cook with moisture, it actually keeps the flavors from transferring. It kind of takes the odor with the moisture out. So if you wanted to cook, say, shrimp and maybe spinach on a steamer setting, it's not going to transfer over. But if you cook shrimp and spinach on a convection oven setting with no moisture, then it will heat up and you will start to get the flavor transfer. So just a point I wanted to make. You can totally cook with moisture and not have flavors transfer. In this case, it benefited us because that all goes together really well, but you can definitely cook that multi-tier and do things like shrimp with veggies, not have it cross over. So our last piece that we're going to talk about, Chef threw in the corned beef from earlier into the blast chiller. So blast chilling is huge.
Sorry.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen people cook something and then they take it and they throw it directly into the walk-in. And what this is doing, it's going to be 140, 150, 160 degrees. You have all that humidity coming off. You put moisture into a refrigerated cabinet. Not only is it warming up the cabinet, so all your food is now potentially at an unsafe temperature, but it's creating all these little ice crystals in the freezer or the refrigerator. Could ice up the coil. It's not going to chill down the. It's not going to chill down. You could show the corned beef real quick. But yeah, so what happens is it's not going to chill down the product quick enough, because the biggest thing, we want to cook product up to temperature to make sure we kill bacteria, but we also want to chill it down within a certain amount of time so we're not creating a perfect environment for bacteria to grow. Obviously, if you were to put food out and it's 120 degrees and it's just sitting there slowly cooling off over time, that's an optimal environment for bacteria to grow and thrive. You don't want to hurt any guests or give anybody food poisoning in any way. So the blast chiller is a great way to do that. And also in this instance, we did it not only to chill it down to a safe temperature quickly, but also we chilled it so it was easy to slice. So chef can take it, throw it onto a slicer and make sandwiches, where normally if you try to take hot meat, throw it on the slicer, it kind of gum up in the slicer blade. It doesn't give you a nice clean cut. So that's another benefit to the blast chiller. It's a quick chill, and we can also freeze. So you can go in, you can give it different settings. If you just wanted to hit the stop and take it out of our chill mode. But if you just wanted to give it a chill setting, this one is just real basic, chill down to 35 degrees. You can use the probe in here as well. And then it'll go for 6 hours on that particular setting, and then hold at 38. We can also do kind of a light freeze. So if you had something you're doing a lot of, exactly what to do. Freeze this off the probe to this temperature and then hold cold. It also keeps a record. So for HACCP guidelines, you can show I brought that food down from 140 degrees down to 35 degrees within this window, so no bacteria formed. The person didn't get sick at my restaurant. So really neat piece. We make these in all different sizes. Next size up is larger. It's got kind of like a prep area, and then we have the larger units that you can put food pans into. Salmon is done. So you can put food pans into, or we can do roll-in.
Taking out the salmon now.
All right. So that was 6 minutes at 375 degrees. And what's nice is it pauses the other recipe, so it pauses our cookies. But the way that these units cool is it draws the cold air in from the back, chills all the components, and then runs it down the front. So you not only have the air drawing to the back of each cavity, but we have a little air curtain right here so heat doesn't spill out. So you can use this kind of going in and out of. You don't have to worry, I have some cookies going right now, so I can't open it for another 8.5 minutes. You can go in and out of this, and I've had customers where they set this to run for some time, and they'll just go in and out. Just eyeball the product, grab it out, throw in another one, close the door. So you can utilize these in cafes. You can utilize them where you can't put a hood in, like the customer that was doing her whole menu through it. You can have these in room service areas. So just the possibilities are endless. Just a really neat piece and very neat. I think I am pretty much done. Does anybody else have any questions now that we're done? I've talked a ton, talked your ear off. Let me know if you have any questions. While Chef's plating that up. Beautiful.
A feast.
Awesome. Do you guys have anything to add? Anything that I missed? No? Alrighty. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we still have our cookies going. Those will come out in another 7 minutes or so, but don't want to hold you around just to wait for cookies to come out.
Well, why don't you give everybody the address so they can come here and eat?
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. We have this kitchen space that we've been working in. We've got all kinds of pizza ovens and soft serve machines. Love for you to come down, bring your product, try it out in person. There's no cost to it. It's a great way to try before you buy. And
Absolutely.
also, you've been seeing all these beautiful pieces we're serving on. We do represent all of these pieces as well. So downtown LA, we have a team that covers that area, and we have 7,000 square feet of flatware, stemware, china, and they know every single piece. It blows my mind every time, but they would be able to help you out. So reach out. Either way, you're looking for flatware, china, stemware, want to come try out some of these pieces, and that's it. That's all I got for you guys.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.